The easiest way to improve your tone on the flute in just 5 minutes a day is to start with a proper warm-up. This is something that I totally neglected earlier on when I was learning. I always felt like, I don't have time to do my long tones. I don't have time to do breathing exercise. And then later on, I realized what a profound impact this has. Warming up your lip muscles, warming up your breathing, engaging the support before you start pushing yourself, before you start putting a whole bunch of demand on the lips and doing things that require lots of flexibility, makes such a difference to the consistency and quality of the sound. So today I'm going to go through a really simple warm-up that it's easy to do, it only takes 5 minutes, and it will get you those results. So the first thing I do before I even play a note on the flute, every time I practice for the first time in the day, is a breathing exercise. And some people call this box breathing, but it really is an exercise that I have focused on breathing the way that I want to when I play the flute, and then adding in some other elements later. So we'll just start with the basic exercise, okay? You would want to set a metronome. I usually use a metronome at 60. What we're going to do is we're going to breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and repeat. You do that for about 2 minutes. The whole idea here is that we get familiar, first of all, with where the air is going. So you want the air to go low. You want to feel your body filling from the back around to the front. You want to feel that you have full expansion in the rib cage from the back to the front. We want to avoid things like raising the shoulders when you take the breath in, tension across the collarbone, or just feelings of like pain or tightness that come here across the neck or across the front of the chest. It should all feel really relaxed, and what we're doing ultimately is stretching out the muscles in between the rib cage, because when they are stretched out and loosened up a little bit, we automatically have a little bit more resonance in the tone. I'm just going to put my hands on my side. You could use a belt also, or you could just stand. My metronome at 60. I'm going to inhale here. Hold. And exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. I have quite a bit of capacity already today because I've already played a full orchestra rehearsal. So I'm already warmed up. I'm feeling a lot of capacity here and some nice flexibility in the ribs. If this feels really hard to do and 4 counts feels like it maybe exceeds the capacity that you have, you don't want to try and force air in. That's exactly the opposite of this exercise. This exercise is more like stretching than a forcing of capacity. So you might want to change to 3 counts in, 3 counts hold. If you're feeling particularly full on capacity, or that you have a really, really large amount of capacity on a particular day, you can also increase the counts in. So you might go 6 in, hold 4, 6 out. You have to work with what you have and where you're at. Again, while you do this, you're looking for that expansion from the back around to the front. I'm just going to show you the exercise also from the back so that you can see how the back of my rib cage is also expanding. So here's in, hold, out, hold. A way to progress this exercise, if you feel like you have a good handle on it, and that you also want to warm up maybe your support a little bit, is to add a shh on the exhale. So that sound, shh, that is the way that I'm pressurizing the air as it leaves my body. And that's really the basic of how support works. If you struggle to engage your support regularly, this is a great way to warm up because it reminds your body to actually use support when you're blowing air out, and connects it to a really great breath. So that would look like this. Breathing in, hold, and now out. Back in, hold, etc. Okay? One of the things to watch out for when you do this one, again, is posture. As you're blowing out with this shh, you want to be pulling the belly button in and avoiding a collapse in the chest. So sometimes I'll do this exercise with my hand on my chest and my other hand on my support. So I'm going shh, and you see the top hand is not lowering with a collapsed chest. So with a collapsed chest, it might look like shh, okay? You can hear the quality of my exhale was slower, and that's not great support. So it's a really great way to train that as well as warm everything up. Sound is actually the focus of our free community this month. If you want more support to improve your sound or have specific questions, you can ask me directly when you join. The link to join is in the video description. So after you've done all of the breathing and maybe support engagement, which should take about 2 minutes, that leaves another 3 minutes to do your long tones. 2 things to really keep in mind. 1, you want to do long tones through all the registers. You want to hit every note on the flute every time you do your long tones. I find this really helps condition the lips and get more consistency in the sound over time. The other thing you want to do is make sure that you start in order of register from least demanding on the lips to most demanding on the lips. So this means you're going to start in the low register first, then the middle register, then the high register. Too often we make the mistake of playing up into the high register first by either running through scales or just seeing what we can do for the day, and it just adds all this unnecessary tension to the body and to the lips especially. You know, your lips like to be warmed up. They like to be eased into it, so that's why we leave the high register for last. The other thing you want to do is make sure that you're going to now bring the breath that you just practiced and just warmed up into the long tones themselves. So if you took 4 counts in the breathing exercise, you also want to take 4 counts to breathe when you do your long tones so that you're also practicing that breath and relating it to the sound. So if I start in the low register, I'm just going to start on the B in the middle of the staff and go down. Etc., all the way down to the bottom of the flute. I'm really paying attention to use my support to push the last bit of air out when I'm doing those long tones and avoiding collapsing the chest. And then of course when I inhale, I'm really concentrating on opening up in the ribs here and watching for any excess tension that I don't need up here. Once I've done the long tones in the low register, so I would go all the way down to a B, you can use whatever pattern you like. I'm doing 3 notes at a time, but you can do 2, whatever makes a sense for you. Then we'll go to the middle register. So we're going to start the middle register on the B, 1 ledger line above the staff, and descend to the B that we started on when we did the low register. So it'll be like this. Etc., all the way down to that B where we started for the low register. Again, you don't have to do the 3-note pattern. It doesn't have to be in any particular rhythm. I would actually recommend that you don't use a metronome for the long tones. This is more about warming up. If your ribs are really tight, sometimes you just have less capacity, and really pushing yourself to play these long, long, long notes can end up adding extra tension into the sound when we're warming up here, and that's not ideal. What we're really looking for is to bring that nice, relaxed, fundamental breath into the long tones and into the sound, not to push our capacity. We can do that another way later. This is really just about warming up and conditioning the lips. Lastly, you'll do the high register. I would recommend that you start on the B again that we started with when we were doing the middle register long tones, and now we ascend, okay? This is easier on the lips, and it's also a little bit easier on the support because the higher we go, the more we have to engage. So we're starting at one place and then really have to bring it in more and more as we go up higher. So it'll be something like this. All the way up to either high B, C, C sharp, D, whatever it is that is the top note in your range. Of course, as we get higher, some of these notes are going to get a little bit shorter because it takes a whole lot of air to go up there. That's not really something to worry about. Again, this is about training the lips and training the support, not about playing, a high D for as long as possible because it has its limitations. You want to remember, keep in mind that your chest is not collapsing when you're up here. I'm just going to show you an example where I do collapse my chest so that you can hear what that sounds like. So you can hear, first of all, that I can't really take a great breath when I do that, and the sound kind of thins out and loses its power as we go higher. Now I'm going to do the same thing again, but I'm not going to collapse the chest. I'm going to keep that open because first of all, it resonates the sound. And second of all, now I'm going to really focus on using that support to pressurize the airstream and keep the air going faster. So it's still tiring because I did have to draw in that support quite a bit at the end because I was totally out of air, but you can see that that depth and resonance in the sound actually stayed consistent all the way through.